Hey, hey, hey. Time for an out-of-this-world story from our space. Some people have a hard time leaving work at work. Today on our space, that couldn't be more true, especially if you're fraternizing with your boss. Wife slept with the boss, saying it was for work, so I exposed it to her proud father. I, male 31, have been married for 3 years to Kara, female 30. She's in the advertising industry, and I work as an executive in the MNC. I met Kara on a dating app, and after a couple of years of an on and off relationship, we finally decided to get married. We both love and respect each other, but I think we are more of a mature couple who respects each other's boundaries and does not go around mushy-mushy. Kara is a creative developer for advertising, so she has odd and unorganized working hours. I was accommodating until now, like for the last 3 years, but now I sense something is just fishy. I tried to have an open-hearted conversation with Kara, but she brushed me off, saying I was just overthinking. Okay, so what happened was, last year, my nephew, Julian, male 25, graduated from a cinematography course and wanted a job. Since Kara was in the advertising industry, he requested a referral. Her agency was not hiring cinematographers then, so she tried to refer him to other agencies where her friends and acquaintances worked. However, after a few months, the hiring manager of Kara's agency spotted Julian's work and offered him better pay. When Kara got to know that Julian got an offer at her agency, she advised against joining it, stating that he shouldn't switch within months and that her agency was not that great. It was a toxic work culture and so on. Surprisingly, Kara had never complained about her workplace being toxic before that discussion. She had been associated with that agency for years now. Her advice raised suspicion in Julian's mind that Kara didn't want him to work for her agency. Although he didn't say anything, it was evident from his straight face that he didn't buy her logic. After Julian left, I asked Kara why she was reluctant to let Julian join her agency. She said that her agency is not good for camera persons or cinematographers because the advertising director is a toxic boss. I questioned her if it was toxic, how she had been working there for so many years, and she had never complained about toxicity before. She said that her line of reports is different. She reports to a creative head who is not toxic, but her friends have informed her that advertising director is a cruel man. The next day I called Julian and tried to give him the same reason as Kara gave it to me last night. He said he had not decided and was still analyzing the offer. He mentioned checking up on the information online from previous employers, etc. I left the conversation there, and I kind of moved on. I didn't check with Julian again on this matter, and weeks passed. Probably a couple of months later, Kara came back home with an angry face. I asked her why, but she ignored me and went for a shower. I thought maybe she was stressed because of some work-related stuff, so I didn't think too much about it. After the shower, she went straight to bed without having dinner. I cuddled her, asking for the reason for her messy mood, convincing her to have dinner. But she refused, saying she was tired and just wanted to sleep. I backed out, giving her the space because of, after a hectic work shift, sometimes sleep is more important than food or husband. The next morning, she was normal. She didn't say anything, and I, too, ignored it to not make her angry. She came late that evening. I thought it was her usual shift extension or so, but she came. Oh my God, she was fuming. She didn't wait for me to ask her the reason. She unleashed her temper on me. Apparently, she was angry because Julian ignored her advice and joined her agency. She went on to say that no one in my family loves her or respects her opinion. I was dumbfounded at her reaction. I mean, it wasn't a big deal if Julian didn't take her advice, right? He is an adult and has all the rights to choose his employers. Well, Kara has always been a strong-headed woman, and I adore her for her strong personality. It was because of her personality she was able to thrive in a career that was dominated by male counterparts. But sometimes, Kara does get egotistic. In her early dating phase, I had difficulty dealing with her because she would often put her foot down and won't budge from her decision. But over time, I realized that she was smart and intuitive. Her decisions and predictions have proved to be accurate, more often than not. So, I guess now I'm conditioned to go by her instincts, even if, sometimes, she wasn't able to back her point with logic. So when Kara unloaded her anger on me, I didn't flame up. It would have triggered her more. When she was done, I calmed her down. I assured her I believed in her judgment with my full self. But we cannot force this on our families, right? I told her that she tried her best to stop Julian from jumping into the fire well. But if he still chose that for himself, let it be. Let him taste that and repent. To satisfy her ego, I told her she would have the last laugh. Of course, I don't want my nephew to suffer, but one to bear the consequences of one's decision. Besides, it wasn't bonded labor. he could get out of it whenever he wanted. Kara remained quiet while I pacified her. I wasn't able to make it out if she was convinced, so I decided to let it pass. It has been more than 3 months since then, but Kara has been behaving weirdly. She has been giving me cold shoulders every now and then. On some days, she behaves normally, and on some days, she is no more than a stranger to me. I tried to have confrontations with her many times, but she brushed off her behavior under the rugs of hectic work and so on. She further insists I not think too hard about it, as I'm just overthinking about her. She is her normal self. I asked her if she was still upset with Julian's incident, but she said he didn't exist for her. I know her remarks are rude, but I also know that it's temporary. She would be fine after a while. I did not speak to Julian after he joined the agency, but I guess he is fine since he hasn't quit yet. I'm more concerned about Kara's behavior toward me. Sometimes I feel that her coldness is related to Julian ignoring her advice, that she doesn't feel valued, and sometimes I feel it is something else. I don't know how to get out of this. I initially think she is hiding something at work, and doesn't want Julian to find out, and subsequently didn't want you finding out, OP. Update 1. Hi. As discussed with some of you over the comments in my post, I let that phase pass on its own. I focused on my work, joined a gym, and took up a goal of losing 10 pounds. But I guess Julian had something stored for me. Last week was Julian's birthday. Honestly, I don't remember anyone's birthday except for Kara's and her anniversary. I wouldn't have realized it until I saw it on social media. So I called up Julian to wish him. He sounded cheerful, but when I asked him about his work, he got quiet and said he wanted to meet me. He said that he had taken off that day and wanted to have lunch with me. It took me by surprise because a 25-year-old definitely doesn't want to have lunch on their birthday with their uncle unless it's a serious business. I asked him if everything was okay at work because somewhere I trusted Kara and thought Julian's boss was actually toxic. I thought Julian had realized that he shouldn't have ignored Kara, so I agreed to meet up. I had to fake being sick to take a sudden off, but I was curious to know what Julian had for me. During lunch, he was uncomfortable for most of the time. I asked him if anything was bothering him, but he said no. I even asked about his boss and work pressure, but he said that work was going great. His strange behavior made me uncomfortable, so I bluntly asked him if he wanted to share anything with me. He was caught off guard and admitted to having something on his mind. He told me that he has seen Kara be unusually close to her boss, Creative Head. They always have lunch and coffee breaks together. She often left with him early from the office, which was a matter of office gossip. He said that Kara, being his aunt, troubles him when people speak such filthy words against her. Since everyone in the office knows about Julian being my nephew, they don't gossip about Kara in front of him. But you know, these things spread quite fast. I asked him if he was unsure about it. He clenched his palms and apologized to me at least 100 times and said he was sorry to tell me all this. He initially hesitated to get into details, afraid of hurting me. He revealed the details only when I insisted. He added that it could be a mere rumor because they, too, have to accompany their boss during client meetings, so it could be possible that Kara was leaving the office for client meetings. I was heavy-headed and unable to process the information. My problem was that Julian wasn't sure about it. It could be more speculation, baseless gossip. Besides, I had no evidence to confront Kara, making my situation more suffocating. I went back home feeling disoriented. I was by myself for the entire evening. Also, at the dinner table, I buried my head on the plate and nibbled my food. Kara asked me a few times if I was okay, but I just nodded. I was unable to sleep, yet I tucked inside the blanket frigid. I don't know what I was thinking when I suddenly asked Kara, what was the exact reason why you didn't want Julian to join her agency? She was taken aback. She asked me, why did I bring this topic up again? I told her with a straight face that I met Julian today, and he was happy with his work, as well as his boss. Kara rolled her eyes and kept down her phone. She took a long breath and said, look, you know my intention was not wrong. I'm not sure how he has got along with his boss. Maybe because they both are of the same ideology. I asked her what did she mean by the same ideology. She hesitantly told me that she found Julian to be a conservative mindset, who raises an eyebrow when the length of a woman's skirt is short or if the neckline is a few inches down. For Julian's boss, it is almost safe to say that he is a chauvinist who looks down upon women in the team. She said Julian is nosy and likes to dictate the women at his house, so she wasn't comfortable with him working for her agency. I asked her why she didn't tell this to me. She said it would hurt me, and it wasn't necessary to indulge in that details. I didn't say a word after that. As I retrospect, I realize she was right to an extent. I have often heard Julian telling my sister she's no longer that young to wear such fashionable clothes or bright lip color. He was also against his sister's decision to move out of the house to live by herself. He once thrashed a boy black and blue when he found him talking to his sister cozily in the school cafeteria. So I'm a little dicey to make any judgment here. Although I trust Kara, I don't want to end up being blindsided and fooled. Whatever it be, I'm unable to completely dismiss Julian's instinct this time. Would appreciate any solid advice. Thanks much. Remain suspicious. I'm not sure your nephew has anything to lose by lying to you or over-dramatizing the truth. Ask him if he can keep an eye on her at work. Then you can get some solid evidence. Update 2. Thanks for some really good advice. So as per this community, I asked Julian to fetch me some proof regarding this claim. He said he didn't want to be involved in this saga only to be labeled as a marriage breaker by the family members. I assured him that I won't accuse him, even if his suspicions turned out to be false positive. And what if what he says turns out to be true? What better could he do for me than to expose a cheating relationship? He finally agreed to give it a shot. He said he would try to get some evidence, but couldn't promise one. A few days later, Kara came from work and started throwing tantrums at me. She accused me of using Julian to spy on her. She said that Julian has made her life terrible at work, and she would not tolerate it. She threatened Julian with his job if he continued to spy on her. I urged her to tell me the exact reason for the reaction. She counterattacked me, saying I shouldn't act naive when I was the one plotting all these, taking Julian's help. I felt terrible about lying to her, but assured her I wasn't involved in any of these. She said that Julian had been keeping an eye on her whatever she does, wherever she goes, whether it is the cafeteria or terrace for a smoke break. At that moment, I cracked inside at Julian's foolishness. I mean, what was he thinking when he followed her everywhere? Even if she was up to it, she wouldn't do anything in public space, right? At that moment, I was hoping Julian's suspicions to come out to be false positive. I pacified Kara and promised her that I would talk to Julian and knock some sense into him. I actually thought of meeting Julian that weekend and asking him to focus on his career instead of the agenda of exposing Kara. The next day, I got a call from Mr. Stewart, Kara's father. I was taken aback when he said I should pull Julian's strings as he was harassing Kara at her workplace. I was speechless for a moment, thinking how come he knew about the situation. I hesitantly asked him if Kara had told him anything about this. He said he was near Kara's office that afternoon, so they decided to have lunch together. During lunch, Kara opened her heart to how Julian was spying on her. I don't know if it is just me or if Kara was actually blowing up the situation out of proportion. I assured him that I would take care of it. When Kara returned home, I told her about her father's phone call. She said yes, she had discussed her problem with her father as usual. I told her it was our internal matter, and we could have solved it. Also, I had promised her last night that I would straighten the issue out with Julian. Nevertheless, she turned defensive, stating that it was her father and she has all right to discuss her problems with him. A little backstory about Kara's father, Mr. Stewart. He's a little extra over-the-top father who is way too protective of his daughter, the kind of one who pulls out a gun if anyone stares at his daughter. He leaves no opportunity to boast about how proud he is to be a father of an independent girl. I mean, I know being the father of a girl naturally makes you protective and proud, but trust me, guys, he is too ahead of the edge. So anyways, I called up Julian that very moment and asked him for a meeting in the upcoming week. The remaining days of the week were quiet. The following weekend, I went to meet Julian to ask him to stop his investigation. He had something else stored for me. I started by thanking him for being so protective of me, and as I went on to ask him to curb down, he stopped me and said he wanted to show me something. He pulled out his laptop and showed me a clip that sent shivers down my spine. It was a long video. Julian fast-forwarded it to a point that I was looking for. Kara was seen with her boss in an elevator. He was caressing her hands while taking some files. Then he was seen fondling her. Other parts. I can't even type this. There were not only one, but several clips where her boss's hand was all around her body in the elevator, in the deserted fire exit gateways, in the staircase. I didn't have the courage to watch all the clips with my eyes wide open. I told Julian to transfer all those files to me. I also asked him how he was able to get CCTV footage of the workspace. It was not accessible by an employee. He said that he could not name it, but he had friends in the engineering department who were able to hack into the CCTV cameras of the deserted places of the office. When I returned home, Kara immediately asked me if I knocked some sense into my stupid nephew. I replied yes. I have told Julian not to interfere in your business when you're getting knocked down by your boss. My pulse automatically pitched high as I said that. She was flustered. She tried to blame the victim, saying that Julian was filled with hatred for her. I yelled back at her, cutting off her drama, and said that I have live proof that her boss was playing with her body. She did not back off until I showed her the clips. She was frozen for a moment before returning to her narcissistic self, threatening Julian for intruding employees' personal space and threatening the security department of their job for leaking CCTV footage. I couldn't place my finger on her reasoning. She said it was forged and asked me to verify the evidence before tarnishing her reputation. I told her bluntly that I had all the evidence of her going to the hotel rooms with her boss. I said I had hired a PI, and he gave me all the information. I was playing a bluff because Julian had given me the details of the hotel where Kara and her boss frequently lodged for their dirty business. Although I didn't have any other information besides the hotel's name, I just played bluff and told her I knew all the details that she and her boss were lodging in the XYZ hotel. She bought my bluff and was lost for words. She sat down and said that I needed to hear her out before making any conclusion. I said I was all ears to listen to her. She said, "Well, I'm in advertising industry. It's part of the business, right? I need to keep my boss happy. There's nothing personal between us. It's just for work, I felt my guts spill out from my mouth. How conveniently did she say it was for nothing personal, and it was all for work? Really? I know I'm going to piss off many of you by saying this. If that's the case, her profession is no less than someone who sells their body for money. I can't believe that she was putting up this whole woman empowerment thing, that she was thriving in a man's world with her head held high. No, not with her head held high, but with her knee bent down. I told her I wouldn't buy her logic, which was pure cheating. I made it clear that cheating was the end for me, and I would be filing for divorce. Saying that, I locked myself in the room, packed up some stuff, and left the house. While I was leaving, I told her that she could vacate my house as soon as possible, and next, we would meet in court. She didn't say anything. I lodged into a hotel for the night and took the next day's flight to Florida. I'll be honest, I wanted to run away from my miserable life. I called up my lawyer friend that very night and explained the situation. He took all the details from me and said he would send the divorce papers in a week to her residential address, her parents' house. Now, I want to get done with the divorce as soon as possible. I also know that it is not going to be easy. I don't know how I'll survive, if at all I will. Yikes. I can't believe that she actually said, "I need to keep my boss happy." How dare she try to blame Julian for making her life miserable at work? She did that herself. People aren't dumb. They see things. It's clearly cheating. It has nothing to do with business. Additionally, it sucks that Julian had to be the middle person and risk his job for you. Sounds like you have a great nephew, but a terrible wife. I'm sorry, OP. Update 3. Thanks for all the support, people. So, I was still in Florida when my lawyer sent the divorce paper to Kara at her parents' house. A few hours after I got the confirmation from the lawyer that the paper had been shipped, I got a call from Kara's father. He immediately started yelling at me, accusing me and my nephew of being chauvinist and egotistic. He said I was divorcing Kara because Julian and I could not stand her successful career. I was perplexed by his allegations. After he was done accusing me, I asked him if he really knew the exact reason, but it was definitely not what he thought. I told him that I didn't know what Kara had BS'd him, but I had all the proof for my claims, which I shared with him at the very instant while we were on the call. I asked him to check his phone. He was just silent. The first part of the silence was when he was checking the videos I sent, and the next part was silence due to embarrassment. I told him I was sorry that he had to see such clips of his daughter, but I had no choice but to share them. I'm no saint. I can't just keep mum and take all the blame on myself when I'm the last one to be blamed for her. I am the dang victim. That was it from his end. I came back after a month or so. Kara had left the house by then. However, she was contesting the divorce, asking for alimony and sharing the house. My lawyer instead pressed her with alimony to compensate for the mental trauma I had to undergo because of her. He also assured me that our marriage was short-lived, and she had no contribution during the purchase of the house, and so she could not claim any share in the house. The case is still on, but I guess I have moved on a little further from where I was a couple of months ago when this all came out. I'm not seeing anyone. Neither do I plan to see anyone anytime soon. I'm just focusing on getting rid of my drinking, which I picked up during my depression phase in Florida. Thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for telling your story, OP. I'm sorry it came down to this. It's a good thing your nephew went ahead with the job. You would have still been trapped in a lie. Moreover, Kara's dad is delusional and should be embarrassed for raising such a daughter. Shame on him. Looks like his daughter isn't the little angel he thought she was. Divorce is hard, probably one of the hardest things you'll unfortunately have to go through in life. But you'll make it out alive. I know it. Keep working on yourself. You got this. Would you have asked your nephew for help catching your cheating wife? Would you feel bad involving him? Why or why not? Thank you for joining us today on Our Space. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Let us know what you think of today's content in the comments below. Until next time.